In an era defined by economic uncertainty and rapid policy shifts, a new chapter in America's trade relations has begun. The latest announcement from the Trump administration, which imposes a 10% universal tariff alongside reciprocal tariffs on more than 60 countries, has ignited a fervor of debate across both domestic and international markets. This investigative report delves into the facts behind the decision, scrutinizes the market's reaction, and evaluates the broader implications of these sweeping measures. The policy, heralded by its backers as a return to time-tested economic strategies, is framed as a response to what many in the administration describe as decades of unfair trade practices. Proponents point to historical precedents, arguing that tariffs have played a critical role in the evolution of the American economy for over 150 years, and assert that the new measures are designed to protect domestic industries. Yet, the announcement has also revealed a surprising breadth, extending even to territories previously considered irrelevant in the trade equation, such as remote islands near Antarctica. In one striking example, a 10% tariff now applies to regions like the Heard and McDonald Islands, despite their lack of trade with the United States last year. The immediate reaction from the financial markets has been nothing short of dramatic. With the Dow plunging by 3.6% in real time, investors and economists alike have expressed their alarm. Mark X and his colleague, alongside other market analysts, have noted that the decline mirrors the collective anxiety of a nation bracing for a potential spike in the price of goods. As one commentator remarked, the drop in market confidence appears to reflect the same shock many Americans might experience when confronted with a sudden rise in everyday expenses. Economic experts are quick to point out that while the tariffs are rooted in economic fact, the implications for the average consumer could be severe. The policy is not merely a symbolic gesture, it is expected to trigger a direct impact on the cost of imports. For instance, while the administration maintains that domestic goods will remain unaffected, the reality is that American consumers might soon face higher prices on items that rely on imported components or materials. This could range from commonplace products like bottled water, where domestic brands such as Poland Springs are touted as more reliable, compared to alternatives like Fiji water, to more complex items like automobiles and pharmaceuticals. The administration's defense of the tariff policy has been both forceful and unapologetic. Howard Lutnick, Trump's Secretary of Commerce, dismissed critics by asserting that the European Union's reluctance to purchase American chicken and lobsters is not a sign of weakness, but rather a reflection of the superior quality of American goods. Hence, his remarks, emphasizing that our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak, underscore a broader narrative that equates strong national products with a robust economy. Lutnick's rhetoric, delivered without restraint, suggests that this policy is not only sound but essential for revitalizing American manufacturing and employment. Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture, echoed these sentiments by reiterating the administration's commitment to bold economic reform. In a manner that underscored the urgency of the situation, she contended that these measures are necessary to counteract what she described as decades of neglect and exploitation by international trade partners. Rollins' statements, delivered in a tone that sought to reassure a disillusioned public, stressed that while the policy might lead to short-term discomfort, it represents a critical step towards a more sustainable and self-reliant economic future. However, the reaction is not uniformly positive. Critics argue that the tariff strategy risks plunging the country into a recession. One particularly illustrative example is the case of the Michigan-based auto manufacturing company, Stellantis. In a stark reminder of the human cost of such policies, reports indicate that 899 workers at the firm were laid off in direct response to the new tariffs. This development, coupled with the broader economic uncertainty, has led many to question whether the intended benefits of protecting domestic industries will be outweighed by the costs borne by everyday Americans. The broader international implications of the tariffs are equally contentious. The global community has responded with a mix of apprehension and strategic recalibration. Many foreign governments already reeling from what they perceive as an aggressive stance by the United States have begun exploring alternative trade agreements and partnerships. The administration's insistence on using tariffs as a negotiating tool has been met with skepticism by economists, who fear that the ensuing trade war could have far-reaching consequences, destabilizing markets and undermining decades of global economic cooperation. Notably, the policy has drawn criticism from various quarters for its perceived arrogance and short-sightedness. The Trump administration's approach has been characterized by a reliance on blunt, uncompromising rhetoric, as well as a tendency to dismiss concerns that do not align with its political narrative. This is exemplified in the administration's handling of internal dissent, where prominent figures such as J.D. Vance have been pressed to reassure the public that any increases in prices, albeit temporary, will eventually give way to a stronger, more competitive economy. Vance's reassurances, however, have done little to alleviate the fears of those who worry about the immediate financial impact on households already struggling to make ends meet. Behind the scenes, the political dynamics at play have revealed a complex interplay between government officials and corporate interests. Recent reports have highlighted how major law firms, such as Milbank, have been quick to align themselves with the administration by agreeing to provide pro bono services for causes championed by the president. This collaboration between the private sector and the political elite underscores a troubling trend: the use of economic policy as a bargaining chip in a broader struggle for influence and power. The fact that these developments are occurring in parallel with the rollout of such sweeping tariffs has led many to question the underlying motivations of those who have long supported the current administration. Critics also point out the dissonance between the lofty promises of economic rejuvenation and the harsh realities faced by working-class Americans. While the administration touts its long-term vision of a booming economy, many individuals are left wondering how they will manage rising costs and uncertain job prospects in the near term. The administration's narrative that a brief period of adjustment will ultimately lead to prosperity has been met with both skepticism and derision by those who have witnessed firsthand the destabilizing effects of similar policies in the past. In this climate of economic upheaval, it is essential to consider the broader context in which these policies are unfolding. The Trump administration has long been a polarizing force in American politics, with a distinctive approach to governance that often prioritizes bold, rapid action over cautious deliberation. So, whether it is the contentious decision to implement universal tariffs or the dramatic public statements made by high-ranking officials, every move is scrutinized by a nation that is increasingly divided along political and economic lines. The current tariff policy, with its mix of historical precedent and modern-day bravado, serves as a stark reminder of the challenges inherent in navigating a complex global economy. As we look to the future, the full ramifications of these tariffs remain uncertain. The administration has confidently assured the public that the current measures will pave the way for enhanced domestic production and greater economic self-sufficiency. Yet, as the stock market tumbles and consumers brace for rising prices, the debate over whether these policies represent sound economic strategy or a misguided venture into protectionism intensifies. With key players on all sides of the debate, ranging from economists and corporate leaders to everyday citizens, the outcome of this policy shift will undoubtedly shape the trajectory of the American economy for years to come. In conclusion, the recent tariff announcement represents a bold yet divisive move by the Trump administration. While its proponents argue that the policy is a return to proven economic principles, critics warn of the immediate hardships that may follow. The true measure of this strategy will depend on how effectively the United States can balance short-term disruption with long-term growth. As the global economic landscape continues to evolve, one thing is clear. The decisions made today will have lasting impacts on both American competitiveness and the broader international order.